All right, so I wanted to take some time to kind of walk you through the study guide here that we have for our quiz coming up for Unit 5. And to do this, you're going to need your periodic table and a calculator. So if you want to make sure you have those, if you need to pause the video and grab those, that would be fine. But for this study guide, the first example is done for you in each one of the different types of problems. For the first one, we always want to start with your given over 1. And in this case, we're going to bring in our molar mass. Now, we're given the mass of 14.5 grams of aluminum, and we want to find out how many moles that would be. And so we need to bring in our molar mass. Now, watch carefully your units, okay? In this case, we're having grams. You're given grams, so grams needs to go on bottom. To do the math, keep in mind we need to multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and divide. If we multiply across the top, of course, we get 14.5. Multiply across the bottom, 26.98. And when we divide those, that's how we get the 0.537 moles of aluminum. So with that in mind, let's take a look at letter B. Letter B, you are given 5.51 grams of iron. Okay, iron, that's Fe. So let's go ahead and set that up. 5.51 grams of iron. Put that over 1. Next, we want to bring in our molar mass. So to find that, we'll look on the periodic table. We see that iron has a molar mass of 55.85 grams per mole. And so since grams is on top, we're going to put grams on bottom. 55.85 grams for 1 mole of iron. And as before, we multiply across the top, 5.51, multiply across the bottom, 55.85, and then we simply divide. And when we punch that into our calculator, we end up with 0.0987 moles of iron. So go ahead and do letter C on your own, but I want to kind of talk you through that part. For number 2, I'm kind of doing the same thing here, except instead of going from mass to moles like we did for 1, now we're going moles to mass. And there's one other change in here. Instead of using just elements, we're given compounds. So there's a little bit extra. There's a couple of different steps we need to take a look at. First example, we are dealing with sodium chloride. We need to find the molar mass of sodium chloride. Well, to do that, we're going to combine sodium and chlorine. Well, sodium is 22.99 grams per mole. Chlorine is 35.45 grams per mole. So sodium chloride is 58.44. And that's how we get that number for our calculation there. Let's go ahead and do the next one together, letter B. 0.575 moles of sodium chloride is how many grams of sodium chloride? Well, kind of using the same format, 58.44 grams of sodium chloride is 1 mole of sodium chloride. When we do this, multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. Don't really need to multiply across the bottom because it's 1 times 1, so this is really unnecessary. But we should end up with about 33.06 grams of sodium chloride. Last thing before I finish up this segment of the video is for this next example, we're dealing with water. Well, water is, of course, H2O. For the hydrogen, we have 2 hydrogens. Based on the periodic table, we see that each one has a mass of 1.01. So that's a total mass of 2.02. Oxygen, we have 1 oxygen. It's got a mass of 16.00. Add all those up, gives us 18.02 grams per mole. That's going to be your molar mass of water. So when you bring in, you're given 2.485 moles of water, and you're then going to multiply that by the molar mass, 18.02 grams per mole. You'll need to make sure that we include all that parts in that compound. I hope that helps. If you have any other questions, please watch for the next video. It'll take you to the backside. Talk to you later.